moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch, and snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Is it a problem that people often don't know when they've actually done it, when they've actually done something successful, when they've done something good? Miles Morales is one of the most baffling cases of self-imposed destruction that maybe I've ever seen, and it's a testament to the fact that Miles is a popular character. You look at how kind of Miles rolled out. Okay, so Brian Michael Bendis ends his Ultimate Spider-Man run, a run that was pretty well liked. I would say, just generally, people were very fond of that run. It got tied up toward the end of Peter Parker's time on that title with the whole ultimatum and Jeff Loeb and just a bunch of other super stupid stuff that was going on in the Ultimate Universe at that time, and it was careening into a train wreck. Ultimate Spider-Man was with Peter Parker, where they elect to kill him. Definitely had all the signs of going sideways, but it didn't. Bendis crafted the Miles Morales story, where this new character emerged, took on the mantle of Spider-Man, proved himself, but didn't prove it. They didn't do the tired old black guy can't be Spider-Man storyline. Instead, they just gave Miles some pretty good adventures. They gave him a slightly different power set, so he got to do some different things. And absolutely, there were some people, some critics, who were saying that the only real Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and this is a knockoff and everything. There were, but not many. By and large, people seem to accept Miles Morales. They seem to like the character. It worked. Again, not saying there was no criticism, but there was not much criticism. Much of it was pretty in support of Miles. And then they said, well, you know what we should really do is a crossover between the Ultimate Universe and the main universe, something that Joe Quesada had said, if we're ever out of ideas, then we'll cross these two universes over. Well, they did run out of ideas, and so Bendis did a crossover involving Mysterio and some other stuff. And it wasn't that memorable, to be honest. It set up a little cliffhanger that really wasn't very interesting either, around kind of the Miles who's in our universe. Clearly Bendis had some other ideas there that just never came to fruition. But by and large, fans accepted Miles. They liked him. And then, Marvel went with Secret Wars, and they shoved Miles Morales into the 616 universe. And a lot of people didn't particularly like it because it immediately made Miles the knockoff Spider-Man. Because then, now he's operating in the same universe as Peter. It didn't make entire sense, like this is Spider-Man and this is not Spider-Man. And then Marvel was doing that dodgy thing of like, let go of the legacy characters and support the new characters. What was so baffling about that is that people were on board with Miles. They were on board with him all along. There wasn't, you didn't need to convince the audience that you need to let go of the legacy version of Peter. You don't need to have articles written by kind of your sycophants talking about how it's time to retire Peter entirely because we got Miles. Miles is so much cooler. It wasn't a competition. Miles had actually established himself as a cool character people liked. But Marvel seemed determined to piss off the fans and make it an issue when it wasn't. The buyers were more than happy. The customers were more than happy to just go with Miles and keep buying that comic and everything else. There was a confusion like, what do we call him? But honestly, if they would have slapped on Miles Morales and just called it Miles Morales, it would have been fine. Could have called it Miles. You could have called it, what are some of the weird, there's some weird names that were proposed, like Ghost Spider and just a bunch of other kind of nonsense, but it wasn't necessary. Frankly, most people were okay if they just called it Miles Morales Spider-Man. It was all right. Again, a couple of people complained, but not many. Most people were just on board. It was a fun title. They were enjoying it. But Marvel was determined not to let a good thing just lie. Instead, they kept bringing it up, saying, "Oh no, we're gonna fix all this resistance." There was not resistance. The more they fixed it, the more it encouraged resistance. The more people did get upset about it because Marvel wouldn't let it alone. And so, in the midst of all this, Sony goes out and does the Miles Morales Into the Spider-Verse film with a very different animation style. And shocker, people liked it. It did well. It juggled the, hey, there's Peter Parkers from different dimensions and everything else. But even there, if you watch that movie, they spend very little time on the idea of, well, you're not the real Spider-Man because you're black. Did that even come up in the film? What did come up in the film was some conversation around, you earned it like everybody else earned it. If you want to be a hero, anyone can be a hero. They did that, but they didn't go in. They didn't make a race issue out of it. They just said, you know what, we're going to give Miles some cool abilities. We're going to have him kind of screw up at the beginning, and then he's going to get more comfortable. They had an absurd training montage where he suddenly goes from not very good to awesome over the course of like an hour, which was a little ridiculous. But hey, it's a kid's cartoon. It's fine. Again, people liked it. How did Marvel follow up with it? Well, they gave the book to Saladin Ahmed, and the book is doing okay, but they seem determined to move the title in any direction other than what was working. And so today, we get the announcement from Marvel of a new series, a new What If series starring Miles Morales. Now, what if you're going to do a What If series starring Miles Morales? How would you do it? Here's some ideas. You might have what if Miles Morales was the original Spider-Man all along? How would that be? What if Miles Morales got his spider powers but was evil? What if he had too much influence with his uncle and it rubbed off on him and he did the wrong things? Okay, that's an idea. What if what if there was no Peter Parker? That's another one, and he just was kind of the spider character. No, the what if that they're doing with Miles is they're basically saying Miles will be this all-star creators, okay, Paco Medina, Cody Ziegler, will introduce the friendly neighborhood Captain America. What if Miles Morales actually became Captain America instead of Spider-Man? And then they're going to say, what if Miles Morales became Wolverine, Thor, and the Hulk? What the hell are you doing, Marvel? The biggest negative about Miles that people have complained about, again, not many, but you, Marvel, have made it more of an issue, is that he doesn't have his own identity. That he's basically, you're shoving him into other heroes' identities. And what's so baffling about that is you get the majority of the fans who are on board with the character, like the comic, go with it. Sales are okay, regardless of his identity. And then you, Marvel, keep bringing up we know some people are not accepting of him as Spider-Man. Who are these people? A handful of trolls on the internet? Some YouTubers? Who are you talking about exactly? Your sales are good with that book. Shut up. You have success. What in the world are you doing? And so now you're doing a what if series, and the biggest knock against the character that you keep bringing up, Marvel, is that he's a knockoff, and you're like, you know what we should do? Let's do a what if series where he's a knockoff of all these other heroes too. That will get him over as his own character. Why? You're sitting here with a comic that's been reasonably successful despite gross mismanagement, a movie that was quite successful, a video game that people liked that was successful. You've got something that works. Why in the world would you now want to take a left turn and say, let's see Miles Morales' Cap and Wolverine and the Hulk? Like, what? And not Iron Man? Bunch of racists. No, but seriously, what are you doing? This is a terrible idea. An absolutely terrible idea. And it's indicative of this thing that Marvel keeps doing to themselves, which is they get something that is successful. And then, almost as if they're insecure of what they've done, they respond to all the worst parts of the criticism, the dumbest, the stuff that they could very easily ignore. Here's an answer for when people come up and say, Miles Morales is just a knockoff character. A knockoff character made a couple $100 million in the box office. Knockoff character has a very well-selling PlayStation game. Knockoff character seems to be supporting his solo title a hell of a lot better than others. So I think we're okay with our little knockoff character. Thanks for commenting. That's how you respond if you're Marvel. Just keep putting out good books. The way you don't respond is to keep feeding the trolls and obsessing over this identity, and then say, you know what, we're going to do a series where the character that has had the biggest complaints. I mean, I guess the follow up to this is going to be putting Gwen Stacy into all these different roles. Well, I guess they did that with Gwenpool and other things already. So maybe it's just Miles' turn. What? Why in the world, Marvel? You have a character that is successful, that people buy, that they like, that's crossed over into the mainstream, meaning outside of comics, to make money in movies and other things. You have something that worked. Mission accomplished. Now is the time for you to bank a bunch of money and good stories by just working off of what you created. Don't do anything weird. Don't do anything new. Just bring in the money. That's all you have to do. Very easy. It's well, I mean, writing a good story clearly is not easy. But it's like, I mean, I swear to God, it's like they're like, what is the, how, you've watched Brewster's Millions, right? Hopefully you've seen it. It's an old film, Richard Pryor, great movie. The premise of this movie is that Brewster, in order to get his full inheritance, has to basically spend, what is it, $30 million? And then he can get $300 million. I think it's something like that. But he has to spend this money in a month. And he can't take on any assets while he's spending the money. So he just spends it on stupid stuff. He just makes the dumbest possible decisions. And his friends are all like, "What are you doing? You're blowing your money. What? Why? You have no. Why are you doing this? Why are you?" And he can't tell. If he tells, then it doesn't work. So he's like, "No, I can't explain. I can't tell you. I can't tell you why I'm being so stupid." It makes me feel like there's a Brewster's Millions situation here. Like somewhere there's a bet within Marvel to say, secretly, we all are racist. And so our goal is to tank this character in any way. Because I swear to God, this kind of stuff, it's at best, it's forgettable. At best. You had a successful What If series that Chip Zdarsky wrote, The Spider Shadows, that was pretty damn good. And you're following it up with, hey, what if the character people complain is a knockoff of other characters too? What are you doing? Why? Again, you made it with Miles. Victory. Be happy with this great character you made and just do. I don't understand anymore. Thanks for listening.